Thank you for joining us for 3Bs on the Law podcast, hosted by Trisha Barita, Camille Canali, and Susan Dawson. Disclaimer, this podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only, not meant to provide legal advice, and does not create an attorney-client relationship. Also, remember, laws change or they differ by jurisdiction, so this is not a substitute for seeking legal counsel in your jurisdiction on the current law applicable to you.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to 3Bs on the Law. Today, we're going to talk about whistleblower claims. And we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but it's in the news again with Elon Musk purchasing Twitter. You may have heard about this deal that's been going down, and it's a little bit stalled. But first, we want to talk a little bit about what a whistleblower is, because there are a couple different types. So generally, it's an employee who reports wrongdoing that they believe is of public interest. So it can be criminal activity. It can be someone who observes sexual harassment, unethical behavior. OSHA violations is a big one. I know Susan and I were talking before we got started. We see those frequently. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with Mr. Musk and Twitter, just because it alerts you to what's happening and to be careful and mindful of how you treat those whistleblowers.
Right. I think a lot of companies don't think about what whistleblowing is. They see it as limited to maybe criminal acts or, oh, you were dumping chemicals in the river. That's whistleblowing. Well, it can be a lot broader than that, as you just said, and you just pointed out. And I think it's interesting to see at this high level in Twitter, this individual coming forward to disclose what he believed to be big, egregious breaches by Twitter, and filed a complaint with the SEC to let him know. But just like you said, it can be whistleblowing can be as basic and commonplace as the average employee calling OSHA and saying, hey, there's some safety violations here, you should come check. Or calling the Department of Labor and saying they're not paying us correctly, right? That is also whistleblowing.
Right. And so in this case with Mr. Musk purchasing Twitter, Twitter's head of security filed this complaint with the SEC alleging security and privacy violations, which I am not a computer genius, but I'm going to guess that means that he believes there's a data breach. And so obviously Twitter denies this. I have to say that as well. But Mr. Musk is using this as an opportunity to try to back out of the deal with Twitter. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this and what happens when the claim is investigated. But Susan, what can Twitter do about this employee who reported?
Not much to the employee, because that would be retaliation in a general sense, and potentially, depending on what state they're in, it could violate whistleblower laws, because some laws have enacted specific protections for whistleblowers. So not much you can do about that employee. That's where things get a little tense, right? Right. You're talking about there's one thing on the Twitter end and another thing on the small business, where you have an employee who you have to look at every day, who just turned you in, and you might not believe that what they were turning you in for was correct or an actual violation. In fact, you might feel that the employee exaggerated, and you might even get cleared and be found to have not done whatever was alleged. That doesn't mean the employee doesn't still get protected as long as it was a good faith reporting. So
right. You have to be very careful that you do not engage in any behavior that could be considered retaliatory against any employee. So if an employee whistleblows on an employer, every employer needs to be very cognizant to not do anything that will be seen as retaliatory against that employee. Right. Or you could be in more hot water.
Right. I think what's really interesting here is the concept of this blowing up a massive deal as well, right? So if you're in the process of selling your business or acquiring a business or Maybe you're signing a huge contract deal that you wanted, and an employee reports you or does something that blows up that deal. That goes beyond having to look around, across the office at that employee every day. That could be, that can have huge ramifications. So you're going to be angry. You're going to be upset, and you're going to call up your lawyer and say, what can I do? And it's going to be a difficult conversation. So I guess the lesson here, right, first and foremost, don't lie, because then you don't have an employee have anything to whistleblow on you for, right? But that I say that half in jest, not that employers lie, but employees sometimes have different perspectives than employers, right?
You got it. And so I guess I would be remiss if I didn't point out that Twitter has sued Mr. Musk to try to enforce the deal, and that's set for hearing, I believe, in October. So stay tuned.
Yep.
There may be more updates on this issue, depending upon how the court rules.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's kind of all we wanted to get forward today.
Yep.
Was just to remind everybody to be cognizant of whistleblowers. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode of 3Bs on the Law. Thank you for joining us on today's podcast of 3Bs on the Law. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. We also welcome any comments. If you'd like to get in touch with us or suggest a future topic, you can email us at 3THREEBsonthelaw@gmail.com. And because we're lawyers, we need to remind you that this podcast is not meant to provide you with legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great day.